Right then, folks, welcome back to the channel. Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's father, came out this week and criticised Red Bull for favouring Sergio Perez in the Monaco Grand Prix over Max Verstappen. Was he right? Are Red Bull favouring Sergio Perez over Max Verstappen, or is Jos Verstappen being unreasonable? Let's discuss that here. It's the F1 Fan Zone. So firstly, let's take a little bit of context as to what had happened over the weekend and also the subsequent events since that weekend. Now, firstly, at the weekend, the Monaco Grand Prix, Sergio Perez won that Grand Prix with Max Verstappen in third place behind Carlos Sainz, but importantly, in front of his closest championship rival, Charles Leclerc, who finished fourth in the Monaco Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc originally started in first place on pole position, and Max Verstappen started as low as fourth. So Max Verstappen did make up a place, while Charles Leclerc, his closest rival, actually lost out and dropped from first to fourth, meaning Max Verstappen, despite not winning the race, gained ground. He actually improved his championship lead over his closest rival in Charles Leclerc. Now, during the race, which in itself was actually very dull in terms of on the track action, there was very little in the way of overtaking, and the only way in which the grid was actually mixed up in any which way, shape or form, because of the fact there was no overtakes amongst the top 10 drivers, was simply down to strategy. Change of tyres, whether you went from the wets to the inters or to the softs, and the time of which that pit was made a difference in terms of track position. For example, Charles Leclerc, who stayed out on wets when Sergio Perez pitted for inters, by the time Charles Leclerc pitted, because he left it too many laps, or because Ferrari left Charles Leclerc out for too many laps on those used, now much slower wets against the much quicker intermediates, by the time Charles pitted, he came out behind Sergio Perez. Hence Sergio Perez then going into first place and going on to win the race because there are no on the track overtakes. The question here is whether or not Red Bull could have played a different strategy that would have suited Max Verstappen more favourable than it did. Could they have pitted Max Verstappen first, for example? Now, Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's father, clearly felt that they could have played a more different strategy. He came out recently in an interview and said Red Bull achieved a good result, but at the same time exerted little influence to help Max out front. This was a statement made on Max's official website. Quote, that he finished third, he owes to Ferrari's mistakes at the second stop of Charles Leclerc. So in other words, he wasn't very happy in the way in which Red Bull, the only reason Max Verstappen finished first was because of Ferrari mistakes. But yes, of course, we all know this. This is very true. In fact, if it weren't for Ferrari mistakes, Max Verstappen probably would have finished fourth. Quote, Max was not helped by the chosen strategy. It turned completely to Chico's favour. That was disappointing to me, and I would have liked it to be different for the championship leader. In other words, what Jos Verstappen is saying is, well, Max is the one who's leading the title at the moment, or leading the championship table, and therefore, whatever happens, whatever the strategy, whatever the context of the race and so on, that they should always only favour Max Verstappen. So again, in other words, what Jos Verstappen is saying is actually when they pitted Perez, perhaps they should have pitted Max Verstappen first. And it's possible that they could have. Essentially, what Jos Verstappen is implying is that actually they could have stopped Max Verstappen and brought him onto the intermediates first instead of Sergio Perez. However, what Red Bull would argue is that because Verstappen was in fourth place and another couple of seconds actually back behind Perez, that they are trying to win the race. And at that moment in time, it could be a tight pit stop, and that extra 2 seconds gap between Perez and Verstappen down in fourth, who was at more like 8 or 9 seconds behind Leclerc at this moment in time out of the pits, it would have been unlikely that Verstappen would have come out in front of Charles Leclerc, but there was more possibility that Perez would have come out in front of Charles Leclerc because he was a couple of seconds closer to Leclerc than what Verstappen was. So, and Red Bull will make the argument that actually it is They're not. They are there to win the race. If they had pitted Verstappen, they could have lost out on potentially winning the race with Chico, and they are there to win the race. What I would like to know is Jos Verstappen implying that perhaps he would rather Red Bull finish second and third, with Verstappen second and Sergio Perez third, even if it meant Sainz winning the race. By Leclerc finishing fourth, they could have had Max Verstappen second instead of third, and therefore gaining more points on his closest rival, Leclerc. The other interesting thing is the timing of this. Jos Verstappen came out and made these comments the day after Perez signed a new contract, and also another thing to take into consideration with in terms of the strategy by Red Bull is the fact that Perez had led Max Verstappen in all sessions. He outperformed him in first practice, he outperformed him in second practice, he outperformed him in third practice, he outqualified him, and he was in front of him in the race and racing quicker. So of course Red Bull were having to favour what was the fastest driver over the weekend, who was closer to the front. Again, I would like to know, Sergio is he implying that better for Verstappen to finish second and Perez third, with Leclerc being fourth, because then Verstappen has a larger points increase over his closest title rival, and give up that race win and let Sainz win the race. He's not in the title race at this moment in time. Let Sainz win it, but as long as Verstappen finishes further in front of his main title rival in Charles Leclerc. The question now what Red Bull are going to have to really consider is Perez is a man in form, and he is right there behind Max Verstappen in the title. He's only 15 points off. Offering Perez a new contract for Red Bull is a bit of a no-brainer, because Perez is arguably the only other driver in Red Bull who's actually been competitive, because the last couple of drivers that Red Bull have had, the likes of Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly, while Pierre Gasly's done a very good job in that AlphaTauri, in the sister car, the AlphaTauris, he didn't live up to expectations continuously quite a way back in the other Red Bull. Sergio Perez, though, is providing much more better opportunities for Verstappen. Offering Perez a new contract is a bit of a no-brainer, because he has been the only Red Bull driver since Daniel Ricciardo left to actually provide one competition for Max Verstappen, but two, be towards the front end of the grid, so that Red Bull had two cars to the front end of the grid and not just one. And what a difference that made last season. It is arguable that Max Verstappen's title win can be accredited to the fact that Perez was there to play strategy. There were many occasions last season where Lewis Hamilton was fighting two Red Bulls rather than one, and this means Red Bull have the upper hand in terms of strategy, pitting Perez, for example, and trying for the undercut, which forces Hamilton into having to pit, causing Hamilton to do things that he didn't want to do, for example. This is all part of strategy. So, arguably, Sergio Perez is very important to Red Bull if they are going to try and win a Constructors' Championship. Now, financially, the prize money is based on where you finish in the Constructors' Championship, not the Drivers' Championship. I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments though. Was Jos Verstappen right, or was he wrong with these comments? Should Red Bull favour Max Verstappen regardless of the situation? Should Red Bull gamble a potential race win just so Max Verstappen could gain an extra place potentially over his closest championship rival? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The next race is the Canadian Grand Prix, and I hope to see you all on the live stream for that on race day. And I'll see you all then. Take care.